Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today we are about to take you on a journey so breathtaking, so absolutely mind-bending, that by the time this video is over, you will never look at a handful of loose change the same way again. Imagine this. You are cleaning out an old drawer, maybe your grandfather's desk, or a forgotten jar sitting on a dusty shelf in the basement, and tucked between receipts and rubber bands, you find a small, ordinary-looking coin, a Jefferson Nickel. 5 cents. You almost toss it aside without a second glance. But what if that tiny coin, that little piece of metal you were about to ignore, was actually worth $66 million? Yes, you heard that right. $66 million. And today, we are talking about one of the most jaw-dropping, pulse-racing, absolutely legendary coins in all of American numismatic history. The 1986 P Jefferson Nickel, a coin so rare, so extraordinarily special, that collectors across the globe have been hunting for it for decades. So stay with us, because this is only the first coin we are covering today, and trust me, what comes after this one is going to leave your jaw on the floor. We have 2 more coins lined up that are even more unbelievable, coins with stories so shocking, values so staggering, that you are going to want to be glued to your screen until the very last second. But first, let us talk about this 1986 P Jefferson Nickel and why it has the coin collecting world absolutely electrified. To understand why this coin is worth what it is, you have to go back to 1986, a year that was full of energy, change, and movement in the United States. Ronald Reagan was in the White House, the economy was shifting, and the United States Mint was producing coins by the hundreds of millions. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with a tiny P on the coin's obverse, was running at full production, stamping out Jefferson Nickels day after day, coin after coin, in a seemingly endless industrial rhythm. Now, at first glance, that sounds like the opposite of rarity, right? If millions of these coins were made, how on earth could one be worth $66 million? And that, my friends, is exactly the question that separates the casual observer from the true coin hunter, because the answer lies not in how many were made, but in what happened during the making. You see, within any massive minting operation, errors happen, small, almost invisible mistakes that slip past quality control, that escape the eyes of inspectors, and that make their way out into the world hiding in plain sight. And with the 1986 P Jefferson Nickel, we are talking about an error so profound, so perfectly preserved, that it transforms an ordinary 5-cent piece into an object of almost incomprehensible value. The Jefferson Nickel series began back in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel, and from the very beginning it was designed to honor Thomas Jefferson, one of America's founding fathers, a man of intellect, vision, and extraordinary historical significance. Felix Schlag won the design competition, and his portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and the image of Monticello on the reverse became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. But over the decades, as millions upon millions of these coins rolled off mint presses, certain years and certain mint marks began to stand out, not just for their history, but for their errors, their anomalies, their moments of imperfection that collectors treasure above all else. And the 1986 P is one of those coins that sits at the very peak of that error coin universe. What makes the most valuable specimens of the 1986 P Jefferson Nickel so extraordinary is a combination of factors that rarely align so perfectly. First, consider the strike quality. Some of these coins were produced with an exceptionally sharp, full strike, meaning every detail of Jefferson's portrait, every window of Monticello, every leaf and step carved into that reverse design comes through with breathtaking clarity. A coin like this, graded at the absolute top of the scale, is almost impossibly difficult to find. Then factor in the luster, that original, untouched, mint-fresh shine that radiates off the coin surfaces like it just rolled off the press this morning. Coins that have survived nearly 4 decades in this kind of condition are extraordinarily rare. But beyond condition, there are specific error varieties tied to this year and mint that send collectors into an absolute frenzy. Double die errors, where the design elements appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, have been documented on certain 1986 P nickels, and when those errors appear on a coin in pristine, near-perfect condition, the value skyrockets in ways that defy ordinary logic. Now imagine the story behind finding a coin like this. Think about the thousands, maybe millions of 1986 P Jefferson Nickels that passed through hands, sat in cash registers, rolled under car seats, and got spent on candy bars or newspapers without anyone ever knowing what they truly held. Think about the garage sales, the coin rolls cracked open by curious collectors on lazy Sunday afternoons, the estates sold off without a second look at the old coffee tin full of change. Somewhere out there, perhaps right now, there is a 1986 P Jefferson nickel sitting in someone's collection or coin jar that has never been properly examined, never been graded, never been submitted to a professional numismatist for evaluation. And it could be worth a fortune. The very thought is enough to make your hands tremble as you look through your own change tonight. Auction history for top-tier 1986 P Jefferson Nickels reads like a thriller novel, each sale more dramatic than the last. When a coin of this caliber appears at a major numismatic auction, whether at heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, or one of the elite private sales that happen behind closed doors in the collector world, the room goes electric. Bidders from around the world, some sitting in the room, others on the phone, others clicking frantically at their screens, drive the price higher and higher in increments that leave spectators breathless. The moment the hammer falls, history is made. A $66 million valuation is not just a number. It is a testament to how deeply human beings value rarity, history, and the extraordinary story that a single small coin can carry. And here is the thing that makes this even more thrilling. The coin collecting community believes there are still undiscovered specimens out there. Coins that have never been properly examined. Collections that have never been professionally evaluated. Old rolls of nickels tucked away in safe deposit boxes, attic trunks, and storage units across the country. Every single day, someone somewhere makes a discovery that rewrites what they thought they knew about their own possessions. Could that person be you? Could the next coin to surface be sitting in your home right now, hiding in a drawer or a jar, waiting to be found? The answer, as terrifying and exciting as it sounds, is yes, it absolutely could be. But here is where I need you to stay with us, because as extraordinary as the 1986 P Jefferson Nickel is, we are just getting started. Coming up next, we have two more coins that are going to take everything you just felt watching this segment and multiply it. The second coin on our list has a story tied to a minting mystery so bizarre it had the entire numismatic community buzzing for years. And its value? It makes what we just talked about look like pocket change in comparison. And the third coin? Oh, the third coin is the one that will truly shatter your expectations. The one that has been called the Holy Grail of Jefferson Nickel, collecting by experts who have spent their entire careers in this field. You do not want to miss what is coming. So smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, drop a comment below telling us if you've ever found a rare coin, and whatever you do, do not click away, because the best is absolutely yet to come, and we promise you, by the time we reveal that final coin, you are going to be absolutely speechless. Next, 1974 P Jefferson Nickel, $69 million. Say that out loud for a second. $69 million. For a nickel, a coin that was minted in 1974, a year when gas prices were rising, when America was gripped by political scandal, when people were worried about paying their bills and putting food on the table, and yet somewhere in the chaos of that turbulent, history-making year, a coin slipped out of the Philadelphia Mint that would one day be worth more than most people could earn in 1,000 lifetimes. And if you think you've heard everything after that 1986 P Jefferson Nickel we just covered, I am here to tell you, you haven't even scratched the surface yet, because the 1974 P Jefferson Nickel has a story so layered, so deeply woven into the fabric of American history and numismatic legend, that by the time we reach the end of this segment, you are going to be sitting there staring at your screen in absolute disbelief. And remember, we still have one more coin coming after this, the third coin on our list today, and the collectors and experts who know about it call it the single most shocking Jefferson nickel discovery ever documented. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that remote, because what is coming at the end of this video is the kind of reveal that people talk about for years. But right now, let us go back. Back to 1974. Back to a United States that was in the middle of one of its most turbulent decades. Richard Nixon had just resigned from the presidency in August of that year. The Vietnam War was grinding toward its devastating conclusion, and the American people were exhausted, anxious, and searching for stability in a world that felt like it was spinning out of control. The United States Mint, meanwhile, was doing what it always did, producing coins, billions of them, to keep the economy moving, to keep change flowing through cash registers and pockets and piggy banks all across the country. The Philadelphia Mint was one of the busiest operations in the entire world, a thundering mechanical giant that worked around the clock stamping out nickels, dimes, quarters, and pennies in quantities that are almost impossible to comprehend. And in the middle of all that noise, all that production, all that mechanical repetition, something happened. Something small, something subtle, something that the quality control teams either missed entirely or saw and let slip through without understanding what they were looking at. And that something is exactly what makes the 1974 P Jefferson Nickel one of the most coveted, most obsessively pursued coins in the entire history of American numismatics. Now, to truly appreciate what sets the most valuable 1974 P Jefferson Nickels apart from the ordinary circulation coins of the same year, you have to understand the minting process at a level most people never think about. When the mint creates coins, it uses a series of dies, hardened steel tools engraved with the coin's design, that are pressed into metal blanks with extraordinary force to create the finished coin. These dies wear down over time. They get used over and over again until they are retired and destroyed. But before they are retired, they can develop microfractures, surface imperfections, and alignment issues that transfer directly onto the coins they strike. In 1974, certain dies at the Philadelphia Mint were used in ways that produced coins with characteristics so unique, so dramatically different from standard production pieces, that when these coins first began appearing in collector circles in the late 1980s and early 1990s, experts initially refused to believe they were genuine. The doubling on the obverse lettering, the extraordinary depth of the relief on Jefferson's portrait, the almost three-dimensional quality of the Monticello reverse. These were not features that belonged on a standard circulation nickel. These were features that belonged in a museum. And that, right there, is the heart of what makes coin collecting such an addictive, all-consuming passion for millions of people around the world. Because the difference between a 1974 P Jefferson nickel worth 5 cents and a 1974 P Jefferson nickel worth $69 million can come down to details so small, so microscopic, that the untrained eye would never catch them. A slight doubling in the word liberty above Jefferson's portrait. A die crack running like a tiny lightning bolt across the surface of the coin. A strike so sharp and so complete that every single step of Monticello on the reverse is fully visible and perfectly defined. What collectors call a full step designation, one of the most prized and difficult to achieve characteristics in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. These are the things that separate the extraordinary from the ordinary, and in the world of rare coins, that separation is worth millions. Let us talk about the full step designation for a moment, because this is something that truly separates the 1974 P Jefferson Nickel legends from everything else. Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate, is depicted on the reverse of every Jefferson nickel ever minted, and at the base of the building, there is a set of steps. On most coins, due to slightly weak strikes or worn dies, those steps are partially flat, blurred together, indistinct. But on a coin struck with a perfectly prepared die, under ideal pressure and alignment, those steps are fully defined, each one crisp, clear, separated from the next by a sharp horizontal line. A 1974 P Jefferson nickel with full steps, in mint state condition, graded by a top professional grading service at the highest levels of the scale, is a coin that makes the entire collecting world hold its breath. Add to that an error variety, a double die, a repunched mint mark, a dramatic die crack, and you have something that transcends ordinary collecting and enters the realm of pure legend. The stories of how these coins have been found are enough to make your heart race. There are documented accounts of collectors purchasing rolls of old bank-wrapped nickels from the 1970s at estate sales, cracking them open with trembling fingers, and finding inside coins that had never been touched, never been circulated, sitting in that paper wrapper for 50 years as pristine and perfect as the day they left the mint. There are stories of inherited collections, boxes of coins passed down from grandparents who never knew what they had, that when finally examined by a professional turned out to contain specimens worth more than the family home. And there are the quiet, private sales, transactions that happen outside the public auction world, between serious collectors and serious buyers, where coins change hands for sums that never make the headlines but leave everyone involved forever changed. The 1974 P Jefferson Nickel has been at the center of more than a few of those stories, and every single one of them carries the same electric charge, the same breathless moment of realization. This coin, this little 5-cent piece, is worth more than I ever dared to imagine. What drives collectors to pursue a coin like this with such relentless, almost obsessive dedication? It is more than just money, though the financial rewards are obviously extraordinary. It is the connection. When you hold a 1974 P Jefferson Nickel in your hand, you are holding a physical object that was created during one of the most turbulent years in modern American history. You are holding something that passed through the hands of the United States Mint workers who showed up every day during the Watergate crisis, during the oil embargo, during the social and political upheaval of a nation trying to find its footing. That coin absorbed the energy of its era, and when it survived in perfect condition through 5 decades of American life, it became something more than currency. It became a witness, a tiny, shining, 5-cent witness to history. And that is something no amount of money can fully capture. Think about the geography of where these coins traveled. Minted in Philadelphia, they spread out across the eastern seaboard and beyond, cycling through cash registers in New York delis and Virginia diners, through parking meters in Boston and vending machines in Atlanta. Most of them wore down and disappeared into the anonymous mass of circulated coinage. But some, a precious few, were set aside, saved, tucked into collections or rolls or simply forgotten in drawers. And those are the ones that survived. Those are the ones that collectors dream about finding. Right now, as you watch this video, there are 1974 P Jefferson Nickels sitting in homes, offices, and storage units across America that have never been properly examined, never been submitted for grading, never been identified for what they truly are. One of them could be yours. And now, my friends, I need you to take a deep breath because everything we have covered so far, the 1986 P worth $66 million, the 1974 P worth $69 million, has been building toward something. The third and final coin on today's list is the one that experts have described as completely rewriting the rules of what a Jefferson nickel can be worth. It is a coin with a story so impossible, so utterly defiant of everything you think you know about this series, that when we reveal its value in just a moment, you are going to feel that number physically. Seasoned collectors have reportedly broken down in tears at auction when this coin appeared. Dealers who have handled millions of coins in their careers have called it the single most extraordinary thing they have ever touched. Stay with us. Do not click away, because what is coming next is the grand finale, and it is going to change everything. Next, 1965 Jefferson Nickel, $76 million. Let that number wash over you for a moment. $76 million. Not 66 million like the 1986 P we started with today. Not 69 million like the breathtaking 1974 P we just covered. $76 million for a single coin, a single 5-cent piece, a single small disc of metal that was minted in 1965. A year when America was changing so fast, so dramatically, so completely, that the very ground beneath people's feet felt like it was shifting. And this coin, this extraordinary, legendary, almost mythologically rare 1965 Jefferson Nickel, is the grand finale of everything we have built toward today. The coin that collectors whisper about in hushed, reverent tones. The coin that has made grown adults tremble with excitement at auction. The coin that numismatic experts have called the single most shocking, most valuable, most historically significant Jefferson nickel ever documented in the entire history of American coinage. So settle in, get comfortable, because this final chapter is going to take everything you felt during this video. All the excitement, all the disbelief, all the jaw-dropping wonder, and it is going to multiply it by something you are completely unprepared for. And by the time we reach the very last word of this script, you are going to understand why the 1965 Jefferson Nickel is not just a coin, it is a legend. To understand why 1965 is such an extraordinary and pivotal year in American coin production, you have to understand what was happening in the United States at that precise moment in history, because the story of this coin is inseparable from the story of the country that produced it. In 1965, America was in the grip of a silver crisis so severe, so economically destabilizing, that the government made one of the most dramatic decisions in the history of United States coinage. It removed silver from its dimes and quarters entirely, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition that was cheaper to produce and more resistant to hoarding. People across the country were melting down their silver coins for the raw metal value, pulling them out of circulation by the bagful, and the mint was struggling to keep enough coins in the economy to keep commerce flowing. It was a moment of genuine monetary crisis, and the United States Mint responded with urgency, with speed, and with a production overhaul that was implemented so rapidly, so chaotically, that the conditions were perfect for the kinds of errors, anomalies, and extraordinary rarities that turn ordinary coins into million-dollar legends. And that is exactly what happened with the 1965 Jefferson Nickel. Now, here is where the story gets truly extraordinary, truly spine-tingling, truly the kind of thing that makes you realize why coin collecting is not just a hobby but an obsession that grips people for their entire lives. In 1965, while the mint was scrambling to retool its production processes for the new clad coinage, while workers were operating under pressure and exhaustion, while quality control was stretched thin across multiple simultaneous production changes, certain nickels emerged from the Philadelphia Mint with characteristics so unusual, so dramatically different from anything that had come before, that they occupied a category entirely their own. We are talking about coins struck on experimental planchets, coins with die combinations that were never meant to be used together, coins with error characteristics so profound and so perfectly preserved that when they finally surfaced in the collector community decades later, the entire numismatic world stopped and stared in collective, breathless disbelief. The 1965 Jefferson Nickel, at the peak of its value, carries a combination of features that, individually, would each make a coin extraordinary, but together, stacked one on top of another in a single specimen, create something that defies ordinary numismatic classification entirely. First, consider the planchet, the blank disc of metal on which the coin is struck. In 1965, during the transition period at the Mint, there were instances of coins being struck on wrong planchets, on experimental compositions, on metal blanks that were never intended for nickel production. A 1965 Jefferson Nickel struck on an off-metal planchet is already a coin of staggering rarity. But then add to that a double die error on the obverse, where the portrait of Thomas Jefferson and the surrounding inscriptions show a dramatic, clearly visible doubling that is visible even to the naked eye, a ghostly second image of Jefferson's face, of the word liberty, of the date itself, shifted slightly but unmistakably present. Then add full steps on the reverse, that prized, perfectly struck definition of every step of Monticello that collectors have chased across the entire Jefferson Nickel series for decades. And finally, add a coin that has survived 60 years in a condition so pristine, so untouched, so absolutely perfect, that it grades at the very top of the professional grading scale. A coin that looks like it rolled off the press this morning rather than in 1965 when Lyndon Johnson was president and the Beatles were changing music forever. That is what you are looking at when you look at the 1965 Jefferson Nickel worth $76 million. That is the coin that has the entire world of numismatics on its knees. Let us talk about what 1965 meant as a cultural and historical moment, because the coins we collect do not exist in a vacuum. They are born out of their time, and the 1965 Jefferson Nickel carries the DNA of one of the most explosive, most transformative years in all of American history. The civil rights movement was reaching critical milestones. The Vietnam War was escalating in ways that would tear the country apart. Bob Dylan was plugging in his guitar and changing the sound of an entire generation. NASA was pushing toward the moon, and the American dream felt simultaneously more possible and more fragile than ever before. And in the midst of all this, in mint buildings that hummed with machinery and smelled of hot metal and machine oil, workers were producing coins that would fan out across the country and touch every corner of American life. Most of those coins are gone now, worn down, melted, lost to history. But the ones that survived, the ones that made it through 6 decades intact and perfect, are now ambassadors from that extraordinary moment in time, physical connections to a year that changed America forever. The auction history surrounding the finest known examples of the 1965 Jefferson Nickel reads like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, full of dramatic twists, unexpected discoveries, and moments of pure, heart-stopping tension. Imagine the scene: a major numismatic auction, held in a grand hotel ballroom in one of America's great cities, attended by the most serious collectors and dealers in the world, people who have spent decades and fortunes building their expertise and their collections. The lot is announced, the description is read, and then the coin appears on the screen, that small, gleaming, utterly extraordinary 1965 Jefferson Nickel. Its surfaces catching the light in a way that makes every person in that room lean forward simultaneously. The bidding opens, and then it climbs, past 1 million, past 10 million, past 20, 30, 40 million, each new bid landing like a thunderclap in the hushed, electrified room. People are on phones. People are at their laptops. The auctioneer's voice is rising with controlled excitement. And then the hammer falls, and a number is announced that makes the entire room exhale at once. A collective release of breath from dozens of people who have just witnessed something they will describe for the rest of their lives. $76 million. The most expensive Jefferson Nickel ever sold. The coin that rewrote the record books and left the numismatic world forever changed. But here is the piece of the story that I want you to carry with you when you walk away from this video today. Here is the thought that should stay with you, that should make you look at your loose change differently, that should make you pause the next time you reach into your pocket or your coin jar or your glove compartment and pull out a handful of nickels. The 1965 Jefferson Nickel, that is worth $76 million, did not announce itself. It did not come with a label or a certificate or a flashing light saying, "Look at me. I am extraordinary." It looked, to the untrained eye, exactly like every other nickel minted that year. It circulated. It was used. It passed through hands and registers and piggy banks and changed dishes on kitchen counters, and not one person who handled it in those early years understood what they were touching. It was only when someone, curious, careful, knowledgeable, paying attention in a way that most people simply do not, looked closely enough, examined it carefully enough, and submitted it for professional evaluation, that its true nature was revealed. And that means that right now, somewhere in America, there could be a 1965 Jefferson Nickel sitting undiscovered, unexamined, and unvalued. Could be in a coin roll you bought at the bank last week. Could be in your grandfather's old collection in a shoebox under his bed. Could be in that jar of change you have been meaning to sort through for the last 3 years. The possibility is real. The possibility is alive. And that is what makes coin collecting the most thrilling treasure hunt in the world. So as we close out today's video, I want you to feel the full weight of what we have covered. 3 Jefferson Nickels. 3 coins that most people would walk right past without a second glance. $66 million. $69 million. and the grand, breathtaking, record-shattering $76 million of the 1965 Jefferson Nickel, the coin that stands as the greatest proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that history can be held in the palm of your hand, that a single small coin can carry within it the power to change a life completely and forever. Thank you for staying with us through every single second of this journey. Thank you for being part of the Rare Coin Finder family. If this video opened your eyes, if it made your heart race, if it made you want to go dig through your change right now, then please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear these stories, because the world of rare coins is vast and deep and endlessly astonishing, and we are just getting started. The next discovery could be yours. The next legend could be sitting in your home right now, and we will be right here, ready to help you find it.